My dear friends, what makes Christmas different from every other day? Wow, suddenly got quiet. Presents, lights, well, maybe. The festive atmosphere. I think all of those things are an expression of what makes today different. It's not its cause. You know, soldiers fighting in snowy mountains and the empty deserts, they can feel the difference of Christmas. Poor refugees fleeing from civil wars, they feel the difference. And they don't have Christmas trees, they don't have dinners with family, they don't even have the opportunity to go to Christmas Mass. So what makes today different? My friends, it's the secret that is at the heart of Christmas. And it touches the Grinches and the Scrooges of the world. And it is the simple message that God sent us through the Christ child. It is the gift of the incarnation. Jesus becoming one of us. By becoming a helpless little baby, by coming down from the glories and the splendors of heaven in order to live a regular, poor human life, experiencing pain and sorrow, experiencing injustice and suffering of this fallen world, God was telling us that every single one of us needs to hear these words. I haven't given up on you. The incarnation in a nutshell, my friends. I haven't given up on you. We human beings, we made a real mess out of this beautiful world that God put under our care. But God hasn't given up on us. Ever since original sin darkened our minds, poisoned our hearts, we have all felt the sting of loneliness, of regret, of remorse, interior division. My friends, we sin each and every single day. You know, with those little white lies that we try to convince ourselves aren't that bad, right? We've all sinned. We've all rebelled against God. But even in our brokenness, even in our sinfulness, God hasn't given up on us. God is more powerful than the world's selfishness. His light is brighter than the darkness. His love is firm and faithful like the mountains. His wisdom is deep and ever-flowing like the oceans. His goodness is endless like the skies. God hasn't given up on us, and never will he give up on us. And this is why Jesus is called our Savior. For today in the city of David is born for us, for each one of us, because God has great hopes for us. And so this history of Christmas is full of reminders that God doesn't give up, that his grace can transform tragedy into triumph. Now, those of you who are students of history, you might know that one of the strangest, would I say, Christmas miracles was the Christmas truce of 1914. It took place on the bloody battlefields of World War I. You know, the countries were battling. They had long lines of parallel trenches in France. And between these trenches was a narrow strip called No Man's Land. It was full of the horrors of war. Soldiers who were killed trying to storm opposing trenches. And so this no man's land was often no more than 70, 50, even 30 yards in width. By December 24th, 1914, both British and German soldiers, they received a number of Christmas care packages from their loved ones. It is even said that the Germans received a small Christmas tree. And they placed the little tree up, they had little decorations, they lit it with candles above the trench. They began to sing Christmas carols. The British troops on the opposite trenches, they did take a few pot shots at the tree at first, but then they started listening to the carols. And they were giving a round of applause for each one that they heard. And soon, German soldiers, they started to improvise signs, calling for a truce. You no fight, we no fight. And then the British, they held up a sign in response, Merry Christmas. And so by Christmas morning, whole miles of the no man's land was filled with soldiers fraternizing from both sides. They were laughing, they were singing, they were exchanging gifts, they were exchanging addresses, postcards. They were able to bury their dead. Some of the soldiers were barbers, and so they set up shop, they did haircuts and shaves. One German soldier was a professional juggler, and he put on a show. Some of the units organized soccer games, and they used their helmets as the goalposts. And according to a diary from a soldier from the 133rd Saxon Regiment, the game ended with a score of 3-2, with the Germans winning the soccer match. Even against the orders of senior officers, the truce lasted in some parts of the trenches until New Year's Day. It was as if just for Christmas, God wanted to remind the world, even in the middle of war, that the most terrible scourge of sin, that God is present, that God hasn't given up on us, and that God's grace can truly make a difference. God hasn't given up on us. It's easy to say those words, but it's not always so easy to believe in them. No matter how much makeup we might put on, or how nice our clothes might be, or when we are alone in our room, we look into our souls, we know what's really there. We know what's under all the appearances, right? We know our weaknesses, we know our failures, we know our sinfulness, we have regrets. And sometimes what we see is so disturbing that we simply stop looking and we keep ourselves distracted. But tonight, my dear friends, God is saying that we don't need to be afraid because He loves us. He loves us so much that He gave us the gift of His Son. And that's why He wasn't born in a marble palace and laid in a crib lined with silk and velvet. That's why He chose to be born in a smelly, damp cave near Bethlehem, a cave full of moldy straw, a cave that shepherds used as a stable for their dirty sheep during storms. And maybe, my dear friends, our souls are a lot like that cave. And we don't really believe that God's love can get in there. But the message of Christmas, my friends, proves that it can. He wants to come into the smelly, dark cave of our hearts, and He wants to fill it with His light, His love, His joy, His peace that will come and hopefully convince us that He hasn't given up on humanity, that He hasn't given up on us, and that there is nothing, my friends, that we can do to separate us from the love of God. Jesus, He wants to come to us. But He's not doing it as a mighty warrior. He's not doing it as a victorious king. He comes to us as a baby. He wants us to hold him in our arms, to adopt him, to make him the companion of our lives. And my friends, this is the good news that makes Christmas different. And so tonight, let's thank God for not giving up on us. Let's thank God for giving us the gift of his Son. And let's promise him that from now on, with Jesus, in our hearts, in our lives, that we will trust him enough to believe him in that message of Christmas, that God hasn't given up on us.